Right, Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. And I want to talk tonight about tax, and I want to start by complimenting the government on bringing forward a broad-ranging review into the tax system in their first term of government. It's looking at all aspects of the tax system, and it will, I'm sure, be a very detailed and comprehensive report. But tonight, I just want to focus on one particular aspect of our tax system, and especially how it impacts families and families that decide to stay home, or one of the parents decide to stay home and look after their children. So I want to focus on stay-at-home parent families. I believe that the basic economic unit of our society is the family. We've always tended to congregate in families through different centuries and different cultures, and often, of course, make therefore decisions based on a family unit, or within a family unit. Our social security system, our family law and our child support arrangements are all based on a family system and often assess family income and family assets jointly. But our tax system doesn't do that. Our tax system is almost exclusively focused on the individual with no regard to the income earned by the other parent in a family relationship. The tax white paper process, the Better Tax Review, has put out an issues paper, apparently, and that issues paper rightly identifies that there should be two aspects of a well-functioning tax system. First, it should be equitable, and second, it should be efficient. And in my view, the tax system currently, as it currently stands, fails on both of those two objectives when it comes to stay-at-home parent families. I want to start by focusing on the efficiency aspects, which aren't often talked about in regards to family issues, but they are just as important as the equity issues. Because, as I said earlier, I believe families do make decisions as a unit, and because they do make decisions largely as a unit, I think I'm part of a team in my household. I think my wife and I come together to make decisions as part of that team. I'm not sure if my kids are always on the same team as my wife and I, but at least my wife and I are always trying to make decisions for the best interests of our family. And because we do make interests jointly, if we do face different tax rates for our marginal tax rates for an extra dollar we might earn in the workforce, then that will distort decisions about what we do in terms of who stays at home, who goes to work, how much we earn. And that will distort decision-making within the family and come at some efficiency loss. Because right now, the breadwinner in a single-income family, which earns $70,000, faces a marginal tax rate of 34.5 cents on the dollar. Whereas if you had a double-income family where both parents earn $35,000 each, those two parents only face a marginal tax rate of 21 cents on the dollar. And that difference, that gap in marginal tax rates, has an impact potentially on economic efficiency. Large differences between what a single income and a secondary income parent earn can have big impacts on parental decisions, making it more difficult for some families to maximise their household income, especially when employment opportunities are not equal across parents and for those who live far from employment centres. I may make the point that parents that live a long way from the CBD, if our tax system forces them to both go into the workforce, they potentially can face 2 trips on the bus or the train or in traffic, and can spend double the time, sometimes 2 hours or more, away from their family, both parents spending that time away from family, where it would be much more efficient, both for our road network and our public transport network, perhaps if sometimes one of them exclusively went to the workforce and the other stayed home to look after the children. But it's not just on the efficiency side that our tax system falls down. On a fairness angle alone, our tax system as regards to stay-at-home parent families is deficient. A single-income family on $80,000 pays around $6,000 more net tax every year than a double-income family on the same income. A double-income family, indeed, can earn up to $172,000 a year before they pay the same average tax as a single-income family on just $86,000 a year. So that's a really important statistic. So a household on $172,000 has the same average tax rate as a single-income family on $86,000. Big difference in the financial resources available to those families, but the same average tax rate. And that breaches the principle of horizontal efficiency in our tax system, because we should treat people in similar circumstances in similar ways. Various changes to income taxes and family benefits has meant that the impact on single-income families of these issues has worsened since 2007. We've had an increase in the tax-free threshold from $6,000 to $18,200. That's had an impact. And there's also been means testing of some family tax benefits in last year's budget. Generally speaking, families on average incomes have seen, single-income families on average incomes have seen their position worsen from between $2,000 and $4,000 in the last 8 years. That means that we now have the fifth most discriminatory system in regards to single-income families in the OECD. In Australia, single-income families pay around 38% more tax than dual-income families for an average household, and in the OECD the average is only 21%. Indeed, around half of other OECD countries offer some form of shared tax arrangements which equalise this issue, and that makes our record much worse than those other countries. Some say that a tax system based on an individual will lead to more people in the workforce, but I don't see any rationale for that measure to be the primary driver of public policy. The countries with the highest rates of workforce participation are actually the poorest because they have no choice but to work. It is correct in theory that a family-based tax system may reduce the number of people working. The extent of that effect is an empirical question, and Australia does not have a workforce participation issue of any great nature. We have the fifth highest workforce participation rate in the OECD, and for women, Australia's participation rates are above the OECD average for all age cohorts. This is hardly indicative of a crisis. It is too simplistic to conclude that more people in the workforce means more taxpayers, more higher GDP and greater overall well-being. It ignores this measure ignores the benefits of unpaid work in the family home. There are many benefits associated with stay-at-home parenting, but the prime benefit is its positive impact on the health and well-being of young children. Study after study demonstrates that full-time parental care is the best for young children, and long periods of day care for children under the age of 1 can adversely affect their development in some circumstances. Results of this kind have been shown across a range of countries, including an impact in all studies, various metrics such as cognitive development, so school readiness, aggression, motor skills and propensity to illness. It is important to stress that these effects are of course on average. They do not mean that any particular infant is harmed by long day care, or indeed that some children do not benefit from family daycare, particularly where their family life may be dysfunctional. Yet the evidence is stark and they are consistent across many studies. Given this strong evidence, it is inconceivable that more is not done to help stay-at-home parent families. And that's why in my submission to the tax white paper, I have proposed that we make some moderate changes to correct the imbalance in the figures that I've raised earlier in this speech. One of the issues that I raised was that the tax-free threshold has increased from $6,000 to $18,200 recently, and that has adversely impacted the relative position of stay-at-home parent families. So one potential option is to simply allow all families to have access to 2 tax-free thresholds, so that families, whether they decide to stay at home and look after their children, or they both go into the workforce, do not pay tax before $36,400. That would seemingly be fair. It wouldn't completely correct the imbalance, wouldn't completely make our tax system neutral, but it would make it a more neutral decision to stay home and look after one's kids. I've had this policy costed by the Parliamentary Budget Office. It would cost around $1.5 billion a year, a substantial cost, but I have not had it means tested, and those costings apply for all families with children below 18. I do think if it was implemented, we would reasonably look at means testing that, and also potentially focusing it on the families with young children where the benefits of stay-at-home parenting are greatest. The policy would benefit around 815,000 couples, or around more than 1.6 million Australians. A more neutral tax system will help a family have more choice in their work and non-work decisions. It may in fact encourage greater workforce participation because it will lower the marginal tax rate of the primary income earner. Moreover, this income sharing policy that I propose helps return the choice of who works and how children are looked after to the people best placed to make that decision, the mother and father of the children. It would lead to greater self-provision by families to meet their own needs, resulting in reduced churn in the tax and welfare system. There are more than 1.5 million single income parents in Australia, and I think it's an important policy that they should not be forgotten in the national debate.
Thank you, Senator